All right, thanks for joining in. Something different today. We got a faulty pickup, and I figured instead of just fixing it and sending it back or whatever, I would try and do some kind of video here. So we've got some new gear. I've got a new microphone on the big camera. I got some kind of arm with a halo light so you could see better, and an overhead clamp thing, right, for my phone, so I can do, tabletop stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. I figured probably the best thing and the most like me thing to do as the first faulty pickup or first pickup repair would be one of my own. So this is what we're going to do. The pickup in question I have currently in this guitar, so it's the neck pickup. Might as well go with the story first, kind of explain things, then we'll go overhead and I'll show you all the stuff I'm doing. Basically what it is I have multiple lines of pickups. So we're going to talk about my pickups a little bit, but not in the way that you think. Not selling anybody on anything. I'm just kind of going over what we got here. So a while back I made a set of pickups for a customer of mine, local guy here who plays a lot of shows, phenomenal player, and a super nice guy. I always like when he comes around. We talk shop, we talk gear, talk tone, all that stuff. Anyways, he was interested in a set of pickups that were lower output, lower wind, and that he can put in a Strat with a super switch so that he could do full humbucker or parallel single coils. And the switch would give him all the options that he wanted for that. So predominantly he seems to be a Strat player, and he's been playing the normal Strat with the single coils and going from pub to pub, bar to bar, venue to venue. There's different noise issues, right, with single coils. So he decided to go with humbuckers, but wanted to maintain some of that bright clarity that you get from a Strat with single coils. So with my lines of pickups, when you look at the humbuckers, you've got the flagship of mine, which would be the PAF pickup, my 59ers, and those, to have a PAF replica, you really have to stick with specific materials and a way of building it and putting it together to make it as close to a PAF as you can in this day and age. So you're locked into those limitations, right? The spec limitations. So as a pickup maker, I'm always thinking of new ways of, what if I did this, or what if I put more turns there, or what if I use this wire with that magnet, but a different shape bobbin, different dimensions, all that stuff. Can't do that with a PAF. It's got to be the real deal. You got to have the right specs. So I expanded into another line of pickups called the 5 series, or 5 slash. So I've got the 557s, the 558s, the 585, and the 593. And I've also had a 508. So they all go from different. Basically what it is, the 5 series is you can achieve vintage type tones, but there's a modern character, so you can kind of do both, and they're designed and built and spec'd a bit different. So this customer wanted an F-spaced bridge and a regular spaced neck humbucker. He was looking at the 557 and the 585, but he wanted them not wound at quite as hot. So a lower number of turns, and just to maintain that clarity and brightness. He wasn't looking for a fat, warm sound. He wanted the Strat sound with some tweakability. So what I did was a custom set, a low turn 585 for the bridge, and a low turn 557 for the neck, just to kind of explain the difference. The 557 and the 558 especially are closer to my 59ers than the rest in the 5 line, in that they use the same dark plain enamel coil wire and pretty much the same magnets, that kind of thing. The bobbins are 50 millimeters spaced. So instead of the 49.2 that's period correct to the 50s PAFs, the 5 series are 50, and then the 585 F spaced is 52 millimeters pole spacing. So I made him a low turn set for his project strat. Cool. He came to pick them up, brought them home, wired it all in, and then he had some kind of intermittent issue with the neck pickup. And so he pulled it apart as anyone would, and tried to source what connection that he made wasn't a solid solder connection. And he couldn't find it. So he brought it to me, thinking maybe it's the pickup. So I took it apart, I measured everything, I even reflowed a few solder joints just in case, but the pickup worked fine. And then I found an intermittent thing with he had an S1 switch on his volume, and the button that's inside the knob was binding a little bit, so I thought maybe it's that. So I filed that around so that it doesn't catch, and it seemed to not have any more issues. Cool, sent it back to him, and then the problem continued on his end. So at this point, it's clear there's a warranty issue. The pickup is faulty because everything else is pretty solid. And this doesn't happen often. Like in all honesty, that's happened in the last 10 plus years. I think this is the second time. One time there was one where one coil just died and the connection broke inside the pickup. Don't know how that happened, but it happens, right? And I fixed that and sent it back, and the customer was happy since. So this is like the second warranty thing. So my solution was, well, I don't know what the problem with the pickup is, because every time I test it with a multimeter and through my amp and stuff, it worked. So I basically did the warranty things, like, okay, bring it back. I'm going to wind you a new pickup. So I wound him a new neck pickup, install it in his Strat, and that has been good since. He's been gigging around with that Strat. All is good. Now I'm left here with a faulty pickup that I made that has an issue that I can't quite figure out. So what I did is I installed it into my PRS, which has the coil split. So not quite like the parallel series switch that he had, but should give us the same kind of diagnostic ability in the guitar. I had it in the guitar, it played fine, it sounded fine, everything worked, and then one day I picked it up and checked it, and there we go. We got the issue happening in real time. So what would happen is, when I pull it up, it's only one coil, and in this case it's the screw coil. So that would work fine. As soon as I push it down for humbucker mode, there'd be signal, but it'd be really, really weak, where it should be fuller, fatter, and a bit louder than the split version. So that tells me that the slug coil, so the slug coil would be like the ones like this one here that doesn't have the pole screws, right? They're just steel slugs pushed through the bobbin. So that tells me that that's the coil that has an issue. Okay, it's got the issue, it's not working. I take the multimeter and I check the readings, right? Like the DC resistance and the inductance. And all is reading as it should. Plug it back into the amp and the pickup works again. So here's my thought on this. I think what it is there's some kind of, so the way the pickup works, right? You've got coils and a magnet and the poles and the slugs. And when the string vibrates over the pickup, it disturbs the magnetic field, which generates a small voltage that goes out to your amp, and the amp amplifies that, hence the name amplifier. And then you get the tones that we all love and seek out, right? What I'm thinking is that coil, there must be a cold solder joint either where the coil wire goes onto the hookup wire, or the hookup wire that solders onto the main 4-conductor connector leads. And it's maybe bottlenecking the voltage, and by connecting a multimeter to test the resistance and the inductance, maybe the machine sends a bit of voltage or opens that doorway, and all of a sudden voltage comes again, and over time it goes cold or something. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull it out of the guitar and pop the cover. We'll do all that tabletop and see if I can find something inside, and you'll see how these pickups are put together. So this is a 557 LT, light, low turn, low output, whatever you want to call it. From the original, from the customer. He now has a new one that's working fine, and we're digging into this one. And yeah, we're gonna try something new with the overhead camera, using my iPhone, see what kind of sound we get like that. And yeah, maybe you'll learn something, maybe it'll be fun. I'm thinking this is something a little different, right? Pickup makers don't typically show their faulty pickup with their name on it and pull it apart. I'm going to do that because I don't do things the same as everyone else. And that's that. So before we switch over, we got up to 18 subscribers. So it's a super tiny number, but it's huge for me because I'm actually surprised that I've got at least 18 people who care enough to click that, even if they're not watching. But the views are going up slowly. You know, people are starting to watch a little bit. Nothing huge by any means, but it's like a snowball, right? You just keep rolling, and it gets bigger and bigger, hopefully. So hopefully you like this, and that'll be that. Oh, and I also got a appropriate mug for today, right? We're digging into this PRS here. So there's the cup. See you in a bit. All right, here we go. So we got to pull the neck pickup off. I'm just going to loosen up these strings here real quick. We'll loosen these up, then we'll open up the cavity. Cut the wires, pull out the pickup, and see what's going on here. So this guitar is a 2007 SC245. It did not come with these pickups. It came with very muffled, dark sounding pickups, and I pulled those out pretty much as soon as I got this a few years back here. All right, so we're gonna flip that over, make sure we can see that cavity. All right, so it might be a little messy in here. This guitar has been a test bed for several sets of pickups. This was one of the guitars I used as a test bed for the 5 series pickups. It's had the 558s, the 585s, the 593s, and the 557s. Currently has a 558 in the bridge and the faulty 557 being tested in the neck. So as you can see, you got 2 CTS push-pull pots here, and then the 2 original volume pots here. Emerson tone capacitors. If you're ever looking for a really good tone capacitor, go to Emerson, man. These are awesome. All right, so the way these work, in case you don't know, it's not like a Les Paul where you get the volumes up front and the tones out back. This one here is volume for neck, tone for neck, volume for bridge, and tone for bridge. So we got to look at the 2 fronts here, which will be this right here. So this is the one where the majority of the neck pickup is soldered to, right? So what I'm going to do, just for ease of taking this apart, I'm just going to cut them and leave the bits of wire so I know what to put where later when I reinstall it, right? Just like that. And you know what goes where later. All right, tuck that in, and then we should be able to pull the pickup right out. Now, before this surgery, I did put this guitar to sleep, so it doesn't feel any pain at all. All right, so pull that out. You don't want to scratch up the top with these screws. And why is it getting stuck here? There we go. All right, lots of lead here. All right, so there it is. Proof that it's, where we go, there we go. See, 557, I've got LT here for the low turn. This is my pickup, I made it, and I'm showing you my pickup that's faulty. This has happened, like I said earlier, twice in the last 10 plus years. It's bound to happen. I've had faulty Seymour Duncans come through here that I've fixed. Gibson pickups, DiMarzio, you name it. I've had them through here, and I've repaired those too. It happens. Sometimes they break down over time. Other times, you know, a product can be faulty or something goes wrong. That happens. Not often though, but for today, it's one of ours. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this guitar to a safe space. I'm gonna remove this solder there, pop the cover off, and then we'll dig in. But I'll do that off camera so that you know you're not stuck watching me for 10 minutes fumbling with a soldering iron and solder and stuff like that. So here we go. We'll be back in a bit with the cover desoldered and we'll pull that off. All right, so we're back. So I've gone ahead and broke the solder connections on the cover, so we're going to pull this off. Right, you'll see a bit of wax in there, right? Strip of tape on here. That's just to isolate it from the chrome or nickel top so that it doesn't vibrate and cause feedback. So we know that this being here, I'll just pull the tape off so you can see here. Right, so that's the slug coil. So that we know that that is the side that's acting up. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully unwrap the tape. So this is all wrapped around with tape. And the majority of humbuckers are built and assembled and taped up pretty much the same way. There's only a few ways you can really do that, and this is it. But you pull gently because you don't want to pull and break a coil wire, because then you may not have enough wire to reconnect it and you might have to rewind it, right? Essentially kills the pickup dead. Now there's a lot of wax in here. These were wax potted. PFs typically, like my 59ers, are not potted unless specifically asked, you know, custom ordered that way. So then usually what you get here is a few connections here. Let's see if I can grab this out. So this is why I call this open heart surgery here. Basically opening up the pickup and hopefully not pulling anything that we don't want pulled out. All right, so we know that this is the faulty one, so we don't want to touch the connections on the other side. Those work perfectly fine. So here's one connection here. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that right there. Right, and the tape kind of just stayed stuck because of the wax. So basically all the connections, each bobbin has a start and a finish wire, right? So where the coil starts and then you wrap it around 5,000-6,000 turns, whatever your number is. And then when you're done, that's your finish. So each bobbin has a start and a finish, and they're wired accordingly to the hookup wire you choose. So in this case, it's the 4 conductor. Now let's see here. We've got the white connection here, and I believe it's the black connection here. So that's white, black. Okay. So just gonna go ahead and snip that there, and I'm just gonna pull this guy off here. now you gotta be careful because it's waxed in there, so it's a little stuck. Yeah, so that black connection, that's the other black connection, right? So you can see inside one of my pickups, right? You've got a Canadian maple spacer here. You can see here it says A2, that's an Alnico 2 magnet. We're gonna leave this like that. We're gonna be mainly focusing on this. So now what I need to do here is figure out how to pull the tape off of that. All right. Give that a snip. Normally I would just unsolder this, but I put my soldering iron away from the table so I don't accidentally burn something or whatever. All right, so we're done with this for now. We'll push that off to the side. So here's our faulty bobbin here. Just try and clean this shit off. Gross, everything's sticky because it's waxy. All right. So now what I want to do is find where the, now don't do this to your pickups just for shits and giggles, you know. If you're not used to doing this, it's a great way to fuck up a pickup and then end up with something that doesn't work, you know. That's actually how I ended up making pickups, is I tried to scrape off a bunch of wax buildup on an Epiphone pickup and broke the coil. And then I got a winder kit and rewound it, and it made it sound a little better. And then I got a pickup kit, and then I started sourcing on my own parts. But not everybody wants to go down that rabbit hole. It's a deep rabbit hole, and I'm still stuck in it. As you can tell, I'm still making pickups. And now I'm dabbling in YouTube, taking my pickup apart to show the world what might have gone wrong here. Very hard to find once it's all waxed in where the tape ends, right? There's a lot of wax in here. Not as much as I've seen some manufacturers. Basically, you take the cover off and it looks like a bar of soap. We don't do that here. I think I found the tape. So basically what I'm going to do here is very slowly unwrap the tape, because I want to expose the two connections. Hopefully that was in view the whole time here. So you got to be really careful, because if this gets really sticky, you could pull a piece of coil and break it, and then you're stuck having to do a rewind. But you could see why, instead of trying to repair this as a warranty repair, I just made a new one, sent it off. That's way quicker, and then I could take my time with this. But also, it allows me to make a video apparently, so there's that. All right, where have we got here? Hopefully not going to make this video super long, but hopefully its uniqueness will kind of pique your interest. All right, so I've got multiple layers of tape here. I might end up messing this pickup up, we'll see. Okay, so there's 2 layers of tape on this here. And I don't know if you could see right there, there's a little bit of coil wire. There you go. And there's the wire that you hook up the leads to. So I need to figure out a way to separate these two without breaking that bit of coil wire. Got to be real slow, delicate. There we go. So if you could see here, you could see how delicate of a connection it is. So what I'm thinking is going on here is that either this connection or the other one on this guy is you know, either a cold solder connection or something. So I'm hoping that I can kind of put some, I'm going to put some new bits of wire on this and on the other one, and then solder it back up and hope that that fixes the problem. It'll work unless I break another connection here, but for now, this is going well so far. Knock on wood. All right, so this piece of wire here will probably have another two sandwiched together holding the black wire in. So I've got to go in and be super careful not to break anything. Okay, so we've got both connections here. Nothing's broken. No, okay, yeah. So the way I make mine, the start wire is always black and the finish wire is always white. All right, peel that off. All right, we're in. Now you see why I call this open heart surgery. This is, you know, pretty delicate stuff here. All right, so now what I'm gonna need to do is cut these connections, get some new wires in. We'll solder that in, tape it back up, reassemble the pickup, and hopefully that does it, right? I won't be able to test it and prove that it works without fault within this video, but maybe by the next video I'll be able to do an A-side and say, hey, the pickup we worked on last video is all good to go. So I'm just going to go get tooled up with the other stuff I need, and then we'll get back to surgery here. We're back. We're all tooled up, ready to go. Sorry about my breathing. Yesterday was one hell of a sinus day with a lot of pressure changes and weather pattern changes and stuff. Go straight to my sinuses and asthma, so I'm a little breathy. Sorry about that. Okay, so where we left off, we carefully peeled off all the tape and we've exposed the connections to the start and finish ends of the coil wire. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut that and reattach these new ones and hope that that's all it is. So what I'll start off with first is I'm going to take the finish wire. I'm just going to unwrap it carefully. One more, just so we have a bit more slack to play with here. You can see it kind of, right? This one here is the start, so it's buried under there. So we don't get much more slack. We don't get any slack compared to, like, this is all the slack we get. So what I'm going to do here, see if I can't unwrap some of this. Actually, you know what? No, just in case some of that's causing the issue, I'm just going to cut it right at the connection here. All right, so that's connected, or disconnected, that's cut off. So this guy's no more. Now we've got this connection that we got to be super careful with. What I do is I take a little bit of fine grit sandpaper, fold it in half like this, right? And then we just want to scratch the surface to get some of that insulation off for a better solder connection. And I'm having a hard time seeing the coil wire. You just have to rub it. It doesn't have to be hard because it'll just snap off. All right, so start in our case is a black wire, so we're going to go ahead and hook up this. These I've stripped these, and they are pre-tinned, so they're ready to attach to this guy here. So we're just going to wrap, if you could even see it, and even with my glasses I could barely see in this light. You just want to wrap it a bunch of times, and then we're going to solder that, and that connection will be done. This is the same way as how I assemble them. It's just in this case it's a repair. All right, that's ready for solder. Doesn't take much, and you don't want to burn the coil wire, so you don't want to stay on the coil wire too long. If you could see that. I like to do a bit on the bottom here, a bit on top. And that should be good. It's on there. One way to test is you grab your multimeter if you have one. All right. Set it up so you can see this here to test the connection, right? So we've got this here and we still have this guy connected for now. So we'll test that. Oh, wait a minute. Should probably be in the right setting first, right? There you go. Right, so this coil here is reading 3 points, it's jumping around a bit, it's 3.63. 3.62. So this connection is good. We could snip this off to make it shorter. And now we work with this guy. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to secure this black connection here. So the way that we had this going was how? Like this. Okay. So flip that over. Move this guy over here. Right, that'll work. So I'm going to put a little strip of tape on top of the coil here, and then another strip on top of that to hold the black wire out of the way into the right direction. Might not stick super well because there's still wax on here because it is a repair. Normally I would tape it up and then wax it, but this seems to be working. All right, so we're taped up, right? Grab this guy here. A little strip of tape to hold that, and then when we're done, I'll wrap it with some tape to hold the whole thing together. That's all taped up. Yeah. Okay. Scratch that. I taped it on backwards. And that's fine. See, I could just take that right off. Let's try this again. Very slowly pull this off. And I'll put on this side because this is the side it's supposed to go on. Normally I'm not doing this with a camera and checking the camera to make sure I'm in the thing, so it's throwing me off a little bit, but that's all good. We're working with it, trying something new. Hopefully you guys like this kind of video. I haven't seen a ton of this kind of video where they're repairing pickups and stuff, so hopefully you get something out of it. If anything, entertainment and seeing how pickups are made, right? How they're assembled, that sort of shit. All right, so now we've got this guy. I'm going to go ahead and put a strip of tape here just to have that done. Then we'll make that last connection and get ready for reassembly. Usually what happens when a pickup goes faulty, there's a coil wire break somewhere in the coil. Usually if it's a newer pickup, it's like this one, it won't be a coil deep inside the coils. It won't be a wire deep inside the coils. It'll be a surface thing, like either this connection broke or went cold or something like that. So that's what I'm hoping that this is just there was a cold connection, a cold solder joint, and it just would lose, and then it would lose some kind of signal, and then once you hook it up to a multimeter, it jolts it back. So all I'm doing here is just gently rubbing it with that sandpaper. Nice clean connection, right? You got a tinned wire here. Use this here, and we're gonna just do the same thing, only now we're working with a little bit more slack, so it's a little bit easier to get more turns on this. All right, we see that now? All right, so now we're going to solder this, and then we just tape it up, pop it back together, and hopefully everything works as it should. Snip the excess. You know what I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to tighten that up a bit. Pop a little more solder on that. I don't like how far that wire was sticking out. All right, now back to making sure this connection. So testing is important. Always test, test, test. So we've got, why is it a -5? Hold on a minute here. There we go. So 3.66, right? It's about the ballpark. It'll read a little bit hotter because there's been heat applied. So the DC resistance does vary depending on temperature, and we just had this guy on there, so that's the 0.4 jump there. So we've got a connection, everything's working. All is good. Now all we have to do is tape this guy on. Just like that. And then I like to just put one wrap just to lock it all in place. So you can kind of see I'm basically reversing the way that it was assembled originally, right? Holding these wires in. There we go. Hopefully that fixes it. Just give it another quick test now that we've taped it. Sometimes you pull on a thing here, yeah, 3.69. See, taped it all up. There's a bit more warmth on those wires, but that'll settle back down to 3.62 probably. All right, so now we put this guy back together. Very simple stuff. The hard part is done. The open heart surgery part was done and successful. I did notice one thing about this one. So earlier I mentioned the 558s that I make, and the 557s have the same coil wire as my 59ers, which have the dark plain enamel, which is PF, more PF correct than this wire. This is the more modern poly. Reason I went with this is the customer originally wanted like as bright as possible, and I find that this, the regular poly coated, which is kind of like a reddish copper color here, you kind of see it through the hole. It just lends for a more even, balanced, clear sound versus the plain enamel. It tends to have a warmer sound in general. And that has something to do with the insulation, how thick it is, and then when you add the turns, the coil ends up bigger with the same number of turns. That kind of thing. All right, so we're going to put these screws back in. Sorry about the length of the video. I'm going to try to cut out as much as I can so it's a little bit shorter, but you can't really shorten this too much, right? It is what it is. So now I got to figure out how I'm going to do this. I'm going to strip a little bit more wire off of this one. Hopefully not pull it right out of the connection, right out of the tape. Pinch it. There we go. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it a fresh connection here too. Tin that one. Helps melt the wax off. And it's hard to keep an eye on the camera to make sure I'm still in the picture while doing this. Maybe if I hold it up a bit higher. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and solder this up so that we're not wasting time here. Camera magic, we were able to get it all done. They're all twisted and soldered on. All right, then you just snip the excess here. Here, give them a little twist. All right, next up here we got to test the connections here where the wires will hook up into the guitar here. So white and red in my case will be the test points for the slug coil, and then these are for the screw side coil. And we're going to test these just to make sure. Always test. I'm constantly testing when I'm building pickups, winding new ones. I'm always testing every step of the way here. Make sure we got something going on here. So here's the coil we fixed, 3.69, and then the coil that was working, 3.76. And then the two finishes, so in my pickups, the color code is always this, right? The screw side start is always black, finish is green, and the slug side, the start is red, and the finish is white. So the two finishes are green and white. So the way to test the full humbucker, just twist. You don't even need to solder it. You just go like this, right? Connect the white and green. And then you test red and black. That should give you the overall output. And right now we're sitting at 7.44 k ohms, which is probably on the high side because there's been heat, right? So once that cools down to room temperature, it should be going around 7.2, 7.3. Normally a 557 in this case would be 7.57-ish. So it's in the ballpark, just a little lower output. But right now this pickup is working and hopefully doesn't end up having that same issue that it was having before. I'm thinking not, because I'm getting a clean signal, a good reading on every point for every bobbin and together. I think it was probably just a cold joint or a strip of coil wire that wasn't really connecting well. Might have been still some insulation left on it. That's why we use the sandpaper. So now we just tape these off. You want to tape them off and then tuck them out of the way, because especially when you put a cover, if you have a little bit of exposed wire there, it will ground out that coil or the entire pickup through the cover. And we don't want that. So just kind of push that out of the way here like this. Okay. And then we wrap the whole thing up with tape. Again, just to keep everything neat, pop the cover on. We'll be good to go. I keep forgetting to keep my stuff in the view of the camera here. All right, so normally what I would do because I got thicker tape and I would wrap the back side of this so you don't get any exposed wire. But in this case, because it was a faulty pickup and it's repaired, I'm just going to keep it in one of my guitars and long-term test it, see if it fails like it did again. But normally I would have a wider strip of tape that would just basically cover, you know, that whole bottom. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. That's pretty good actually, right? And then tip, if you've got a pickup that's going microphonic, that is squealing, you're giving feedback, but you have a cover. If you're, you know, if you've got some tech ability to pop the cover off, you just get like masking tape, or this is like basically this, it's pickup tape, but it's basically black masking tape, right? And I do these on all my pickups. You just put a little strip over those guys, right? And then it'll dampen the vibration of the cover on top of it. And that's that. See, there's still some wax there too. That helps too. But that is that. Then you pop the cover on like this, and you put it full of like all the thumbprints and stuff, right? Wash that off after. Fits all nice and snug. Then it's just a matter of resoldering it on there so it doesn't move. Boom. It's not sticking because there's a bit of wax. Sometimes it takes quite a bit just to get it to stick. There we go. So that is all fixed up. One last test, just to be on the safe side, because you don't want to install it. You don't want to install it in a guitar without testing it multiple times. See, so a little bit more heat because the cover and the solder. We've got 7.5 now. And then if we undo the white and green and then test each bobbin separately, right, we've got 3.7-ish and 3.8, right? So there you go. You've got that. Wipe that clean. So now all I have left to do is install it and test it. This will be long term because the problem originally would surface up after time. But yeah, there it is. All right. Well, hopefully you like that. Hopefully that it's a different kind of video than you're used to seeing on YouTube. Thanks for watching. If you've gone this far, if you're interested in this kind of stuff and the tabletop work and all that, let me know. If it's too long and you guys don't like this, then I won't do them, or maybe I will. But if you do like it, then that's good, because then I could think of other types of projects or repairs that might be good to do on video. So until next time, hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll just keep working away at providing more content that hopefully is interesting. If you're interested in my pickups, there's links, whatever, they're down there. Have a look, whatever. This doesn't happen often. Like I said, I've had two pickups basically in the last 10 plus years. One was like 8 years ago, where there's an issue where the coil went dead, and I was able to fix that and ship it out. And this time, and that, customer's happy, he's gigging with the replacement, and we got a video out of it with this one. In a later video, once I've had time testing it, we can see what it sounds like in the PRS that I have here. And we'll go from there. But until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.